Hey everyone, how's it going today? Brittany Lynch here from stepqueen.com. I am a stepmom and a second wife, and I am also an online stepfamily counselor. So I just wanted to jump on really quickly and talk to you about something that happened today. My stepson is 10 years old, and he is just finishing up his last days of grade 4. And now the school that he goes to after his grade 4 is over. That's the maximum that his school goes to. So next year for grade 5, he starts at a different school. So today they had a celebration at the end of the year that wrapped up the year. They had awards that they gave out to certain kids, and they recognized kids whose birthdays are in the summer because they don't get to celebrate them in the school year with their friends. So it was a nice little ceremony. But my stepson received an award today because he is always showing that he is a loving and compassionate and a helpful student. So his teacher suggested him for this, and then his classmates actually voted and he was the winner. So at this ceremony, he didn't know that this was happening, but he was going to receive this award for being brotherly, I guess they called it. So a lot of people have asked me questions about, how do we do things like Christmases or birthdays or any kind of event that it would be important for my stepson to have both his dad and his mom and me in the same room together. For a lot of families, that dynamic doesn't necessarily work. A lot of exes aren't able to see eye to eye and kind of come together for what's best for the child and put their differences and their adult problems behind them. So a lot of times it's really hard on the kids because they feel divided. Who do I want to spend Christmas with more? Or they don't even end up wanting a birthday party because it just turns into a big fiasco about who's going to be there and who's going to be invited, and are mom and dad going to get along. And that's a really unfortunate place for a child to have to be in. It has nothing to do with them, and it's hard enough on them that mom and dad live in different houses, let alone all their special occasions are typically full of conflict and no fun for them. So thankfully, in our family, we've gotten to a place where we celebrate birthdays all together. So my husband and his ex-wife and I are all at his birthday parties. That's really usually the only time that we do anything together. All the other holidays are pretty divided, like half the morning and then the afternoon on. Half the morning would be with his mom, and then afternoon on he would come to be with us. But things like award ceremonies and graduations and weddings, when they happen, that's really important for the kids to be able to have both of their parents there in the same room when these special moments are going on for them. So if you're wondering how we got to the place that my husband's ex-wife is willing and wants to be in the same room as me, it all started at the beginning, the very, very beginning of my relationship with my husband now. So when he and I first started dating, I said to him, tell your ex-wife that if she wants to meet me before you introduce me to your son, that I'm open to that. I thought it would be important, to let her know who I was and kind of get a feel for me. It's not comfortable for anybody to send their kids to somebody's house that they don't know, right? So I extended that invitation, and I said, at any time if she wants to meet for coffee or even have a phone call or anything like that, so that she's more comfortable with another woman being in her son's life, let me know. And, at first she was very resistant to it. She didn't want anything to do with me. She hated the fact that I existed. She hated hearing my name. Thankfully, she's never said anything to my stepson about this. She's always been pretty good at keeping her own opinions to herself. He's definitely overheard her say some things to her sister, who's a very good friend of hers, but she's never directly said anything to my stepson about, that if he's allowed to disrespect me or that he doesn't have to listen to me because I'm not his mom. So that's a big win for us. But the next thing after that I made sure that I did after I extended that initial invitation was I let her come to me, okay? I didn't take it personally that she didn't want to meet me and that she didn't want to be my friend. In my opinion, I'm a pretty awesome person and I treat her son with a lot of respect, and that's really all that she can expect from me, right? That's all that an ex-wife really should be expecting from stepmom is, are you good to their kid? It has nothing to do with adult feelings. But it was still important to me that she appreciated me as a stepmom and that she recognized me as a stepmom. So after I extended this invitation, like I said, I waited for her to come to me. And the way that I did that was just by loving her son. And when I say loving her son, I don't mean that stepmoms should have to love their stepchildren as if they were their own kids. That's a big myth of stepfamilies and one that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think it's fair to expect that, and I don't think that it happens very often. So if you're a stepmom who doesn't love her stepkids and doesn't love them, all that much, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. That's totally 100% normal, I promise. But I made sure that every time that he would come to our house, I would treat him, my stepson, with a lot of respect. So he could never go home and report to his mom that I was mean to him or that anything that would make her dislike me more than she already did. Also, I made sure that I absolutely 100% never, ever, 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 ever talked poorly about his mom to him or to my husband. It's really easy to get wrapped up in the ex-wife and the divorce dynamic and all of the drama that can come with that. But we have made a choice as a family that we don't talk poorly about anybody, ever, no matter what. And has my husband's ex-wife made some decisions that I don't necessarily agree with? Absolutely. Have I made some decisions that she probably doesn't necessarily agree with? Absolutely. Has my husband made decisions that I don't agree with? Absolutely. That's just part and parcel of being individual people who make your own decisions. And, your husband's ex-wife isn't always going to do things that you agree with, but it has nothing to do with you, right? If she's being terrible to you, you need to realize and recognize that has nothing to do with you. That stems from her own insecurities and her own anger and her own jealousy or whatever the contributing factors are to the reasons that she doesn't like you. What you need to do for yourself is take yourself out of that equation. So these are all kind of been steps that we've taken along our journey together as a step family. And, I do consider my stepson's mom to be a part of our step family because she's his mom. She's not going anywhere. And anywhere that he goes, there's a part of her that is involved in that as well. So I set out this first invitation. I let her come to me and I treated her son really well. And over time, she finally started to be more okay with the idea of me being around because I gave her no ammunition to think otherwise. I never text her. I don't have her phone number. I never call her. I don't communicate with her. That is not my responsibility. If you are a stepmom who takes on that communication role between the ex-wife, you should know that that's really not your place. And if your husband and his ex-wife can't get along well enough to co-parent their children, there are definite solutions for that to keep you out of it, especially if that's a high conflict place and you're always the one that's getting attacked for that. A lot of the times women will come to me and ask for help with, how do I deal with this that my husband's ex-wife said, or bio mom said this and she's being awful to me in this way and I said this and she said this and blah, 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 blah. You have to realize that if you are engaging with her, you're just as guilty as she is. And all that we are is people trying to be the best parents that we can be, trying to love our children the best that we can. And it's a really complicated dynamic to be able to do that. So instead of always thinking that the ex-wife is the bad guy, I would encourage you to take a step back, take your feelings out of it, take your emotions out of it, and realize that the divorce was probably really, really hard on her. She hates that she has to send the love of her life, her children, to somebody else's house every other weekend or every other week or whatever your custody arrangement is. You know, this woman also has a lot of pain. And I think it's very important that if you want to have a good relationship with your husband's ex-wife, not saying you have to be friends, but if you want to have a collaborative relationship with your husband's ex-wife, you need to recognize that she's a person as well. And she's got feelings as well. And she's allowed to be angry and she's allowed to hurt. And once you have figured out how to take yourself out of it and stop taking everything so personally, things are really going to turn around for you. So today when we walked into the gym at my stepson's school, my husband and I went and sat down, and then a few minutes later, my husband's ex-wife came in the doors and she looked at us, she waved, said hi, and she came and sat with us. And when my stepson turned around, he was able to see his mom, his dad, and me sitting all side by side. He didn't know why we were all there because him getting the award was a surprise. But how good does that feel as a kid who is from a divorced home to look back and see all of your parents who are able to be mature enough to sit beside each other? You know, he knows that people who come from divorced families don't get along. And he said to me one time, you know, at my birthday party, if you guys don't want my mom to be there, then I guess we can do too. That's really sad for him to have thought that because we've never given him any indication of that. So all I can say is everything in a step family should be, number one, what is best for your children? And number two, keep the kids out of the adult stuff. Number three, let the bio mom come to you. You can't force yourself on her. If you think that you're a great stepmom, it doesn't require her validating that you're a great stepmom. You don't need her to tell you that you're a great stepmom to be a great stepmom. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that you can take some steps towards improving your relationship with your husband's ex-wives. And leave me a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway from this was, and we'll talk soon.